there. Welcome to the Total Woman Show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, and I'm so excited that you tuned into the show today. Boy, we have a great show for you today. You know what? Have you ever thought about what is my purpose? What am I looking for? Are you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? And this is a new year, and it's February, yes, and it's not over yet for New Year's resolutions and to continue those. So today we're going to be talking about core beliefs, finding your purpose, and do you believe that everyone is packaged with purpose? Well, we're going to find out because today I have on my show Dr. Anita Polite-Wilson. Yes, she's got a hyphenated name, but she's known as Dr. Anita. She has her PhD, and we're going to talk about finding your strengths and finding your purpose from your perspective and some of the things that you've learned. And so I want to welcome you to the show today. We're going to have a lot of fun. And then on my left, I have Miss Caitlin Chen. Caitlin is a financial services expert, and she also is a blogger. She's a writer. And let me tell you, this woman has her own television show on my network called the Millennial Money Minute. You got that? Millennial Money Minute. Okay. And not only that, but I have to give you this, because Caitlin, her show is one of the most watched shows on the whole network of Voice America platform. Think of that. So I want to give you kudos, girl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have done a job well done. So really, thank you for being on the show today. And it's interesting because we'll have your perspective on millennials and some of the things that you've learned, your experiences that we'll talk about. And today, women, because you're so special, and I don't want to leave out the men because you are too, but we are really the Total Woman Show focuses on women globally. So we are so cognizant of your issues. But this is a caveat that I always say every year and every show, that the comments and the statements that we make today are ours uniquely to own. You may agree, you may not agree, but these are comments that we will share with you from our hearts. So stay with us today. And you can write in the show, did you know that? At info@transformationforsuccess.com. You can write and you can tell us your opinions, give us feedback. We'd love to have you tune in to us. So stay tuned because we've got a lot to share today. So Dr. Anita,
yes,
it's fascinating to have you on the show today, and I know you've got your PhD and you've done a lot of work with corporations, and more importantly, you're doing some good stuff. And I didn't feature you as an author, but I told you got a book in you. And
I do.
I know it's coming.
I have a series in here, just trying to figure out which direction to go in. But yes.
But I want to know a little bit about where you got started and what motivated you to go on the path that you're going on today.
What got me started was when I was in junior college. It took me, and I used to be embarrassed about this story, but I shared it not too long ago at a college conference. And so many people came up to me and said, because you shared your story, I'm going to keep going. And I spent 4 years at a 2-year college trying to figure it out. I went to the Career Guidance Center. I took a battery of tests, and the results that I was hoping would tell me what direction to go in said you could do anything you want. I knew that. I didn't know what I should do. So, safe to say, get a business degree. So I did that, and about 10 years later, I decided to go for my BS in management at Pepperdine. Didn't do so hot because I was going for the wrong reasons. I wanted to make my parents proud. The company paid for it. I feel like I may as well go ahead and get my education. So I went and got that, and actually, honestly, I didn't think I'd learned anything. 10 years later, I met one of many mentors who actually changed my life. And he said, you've got a lot of talent for training. I want you to come and do some things with me in the interpersonal skills realm. At that point, I went and got my master's in organizational leadership from Biola. That experience changed my life, but it was because of the uncertainty that I had trying to discover what my career was that led me to really soul searching, figure out, well, okay, so I can do everything, but who am I, and can I align who I am with what I do? That's when I discovered Strengths Finders, and it totally changed my life. So now my personal mission is to influence everyone to discover, develop, and deploy their strengths.
I think that's interesting because so many people have had your journey, your experiences, I'm sure. And I really want to applaud you for being authentic and getting it out there because I know there are a lot of stories many of us have and we don't want to share. It is so healing to really let it out there. It took me some years in my own personal story to say that, I was 36 years old and everybody thought I had a BA degree. I went to college at 15, stopped out at 17. well, I went to work for a university as secretary to a college president. No one asked me, did I finish? They, did I have a degree? They just assumed, and they didn't ask, and I didn't tell. But when I did begin to, one day through a mentor I met, Maya Angelou was my mentor, and said, "Who do you care what people think?" So you were probably in that same situation, thinking, "I don't want to share this. That I spent all this time in community colleges." But this is so important, I think, today for many of you out there who may have these hidden things and still maybe at 50, still trying to search, where am I and where do I belong? And the Strength Finders is a solution for many people. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I want to ask Caitlin, too, your story, Caitlin, because, you shared with me earlier about your humble beginnings and what happened with you in terms of finding your purpose, because you kind of had a little bit of a road to travel. So share with me what happened.
Well, my purpose was I was in the mortgage and real estate business, of course, prior to the recession in 2008. And of course, within 24 hours in 2008, I pretty much lost all my income.
Wow.
The day Goldman Sachs went out of business, that was it. And that was my mortgage career.
Wow.
Then I tried to soul search and see what I wanted to do that was a little bit more stable. And that's when I got into banking. And during that time, of course, I used to own 5 homes. I lost every single one of them.
Oh, wow.
And one lesson I had was, it's all about location. The 5 different homes, it was in different locations. And of course, the 3 that were in prime locations sold in a heartbeat. But the other 2 I couldn't sell for the life of me, and it ended up foreclosing. And my credit was shot for the next 7 years. And I really
7 years?
7 years, yes. When you have a foreclosure, it's on there for 7 years. You really can't take it off. Time will take it off. And after the 7 years, of course, now I own my own condo again. And that was just an eye-opening experience.
And most importantly, here you are, a financial services manager.
I was just thinking the
expert
same
now.
thing, right.
I mean, but isn't it interesting how we go through these experiences that lead us to our purpose? But they don't seem very comfortable at the time. I mean, I'm sure it was very arduous for you, wandering around for 10 years trying to figure it out. And in the meantime, people are saying, well, you've spent all this money to get a degree and you still can't, it's your family pressures.
You know what? God blessed me. At every company that I worked, all my degrees have been paid for. My AA, I paid for that myself because just out of college.
Right.
But my first master's was paid for, my second master's and my PhD were paid for, and my BS was paid for.
But still,
all
you
through
were
the companies.
wandering around, girl.
I was wandering around, but here's the thing. In those 4 years that I spent at the JC that I was so embarrassed to share, when I did figure it out, I got my first bachelor's. It was a 2-year program. I got it in a year and a half.
Wow.
And then when I got my second master's and my PhD, most people spend 5 years at least. Some people, I graduated with one woman who spent 20 years going for it because she didn't quit. I got mine in just under 3. When I found my purpose and my passion, I took off like a shot.
Right.
So what I want to encourage people to understand is, even though it takes you a minute to get there, you'll get there. And when you do, you'll make up for all that other time.
Right.
And it is so true. And then your life journey, I mean, here you end up, doing some things with millennials of all, and telling them how to, advising them. But I think through what I've discovered, through your pain comes success. I mean, in a sense, when you think of it.
With
because
motivation.
success means different things to
That's
different
what it
people.
is.
It motivates you to help others. And sometimes you just have to learn the hard way. I have to say, sometimes I'm very stubborn. But people actually warned me about owning that many homes during that time. People that have been in the real estate cycle, they said, you know what, the market's going to crash. And I didn't believe them until I learned the hard way.
Right. Sometimes we got to do that.
Okay. But the flip side of this is, and I know I'm talking to somebody out there, is that you're going through all this pain, but you're not taking advice, and you're not really seeking to really go inward and to try that journey to find out who you are. And it's interesting because everything now that you hear is about the journey within. You've got to travel within. Now, my other part of this too, and I'm sure I want to ask you about this, some of the people that you have met who just didn't listen. I mean, because, you know, everybody's not successful, Anita. I mean, and they don't come out like you. You're the blogger, and now you've got your own television, you know, show, and you're helping people. But what happens? What do you think happens? Do they just give up? You had a mentor, someone who came into your life and said, I can help you. You had someone who came in to give you some advice. I had someone to help me, and I got my PhD under 3 years as well, wrote my dissertation in 8 months. But I was 51, you know. So that's to say, it doesn't matter how old, but the journey can start when you're 50. You know, I mean, life isn't over.
I think our journey starts when we start our awareness. And that was one thing that was critical to my success moving forward. As I was writing, I was always constantly told to reflect. The school that I went to, reflect. I'm like, reflect? Who's got time for that? I got stuff to do. But unless you reflect and figure things out, you won't know whether or not what you're doing is what you should be doing. And so my key messages and what my business is based around are 3 fundamental principles. Everyone is packaged with potential for purpose. Everyone is gifted to shift to new levels of success. And everyone is experienced enough to find answers from within.
Yeah, but I had a real bad experience. My dad was a drunk. My mom was out soliciting men, and we grew up hungry. This is not my story. This is how people can compartmentalize that, all of the excuses as to the woulda, the coulda, I shoulda, but they don't. What do you do when, have you come, you know, and I'm going to ask you that too, when you come in contact with people within organizations that you're working with, and you find there are employees who are motivated, but there are employees who seem just to be stuck, because it's giving up time to go to school after working.
That's right.
I was always, never a full-time student. I was always having to work and go to school. How about you?
I worked full-time, and I was a full-time student every time I went back to school, every time. Because once I finally got going, I wanted to get done and get it done quickly.
It was so funny because I remember when I was working at a college university, and I was going to school after work. I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, I was 36 when I went back to get my BA. And I went straight from the BA to get a master's. So I went to school for 7 straight years. It took me 3 years to get the bachelor's, 4 years to get a master's, because they changed the program from 30 units to 60.
Oh, wow.
So I had a 60-unit master's program in counseling. So basically, I went to school for 7 years. Now I'm working on this job in a college environment for 7 years.
Wow.
So when I got the master's, people looked at me and they said, "Oh, you didn't get your master's that quick." And no, you couldn't have. I mean, they were surprised. And I said, okay, while you guys were watching Jeopardy
There you go.
and Wheel of Fortune,
I was
Exactly.
I
studying.
was going to school
That's
at
right.
nights and
That's right.
studying.
That's right.
And so it's interesting because Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy are still on today.
Absolutely.
But it was just, you know, time goes by.
It
So
does.
I want to
Exactly.
encourage
does.
some women out there, or men too, that it's never too late.
Never.
And to find that desire.
That's right.
Now, share a little bit about the Strength Finders and what that entails.
Strengths Finders is a wonderful assessment. So first of all, let's clarify between test and assessment.
Absolutely.
A test is what it is. 2 + 2 is 4. If you put 5, you're wrong.
Right.
An assessment is what it is. And there's no judgment associated with it. There's no right or wrong.
Right.
Your strength is your strength, your strength is your strength, my strength is my strength. And Strengths Finders is a tool that is presented by the Gallup organization. Dr. Clifton came up with the tool, he and his partner, and it's been taken by billions of people worldwide. No 2 people have the same 5 strengths, but even if they did have the same 5 strengths, they're not in the same order. And even if in the unlikely situation that they had the same 5 strengths in the same order,
They're still different individuals.
it's going to show up differently.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so your strengths, what I like to say, help you identify your who with your do. So back to your example about people in the workplace, some people that are engaged and some people that are not engaged. Those folks I call very lovingly occupational misfits, because sometimes we come straight out of school and we have to go to work.
Right.
We've got to pay back that student loan. We just got married. We've had a baby, whatever it is. Some people, I would dare say a lot of people in the workforce, didn't really take the time to figure out their who so they could align it with their do. So the first place I recommend for them to do, if they can't take the Strengths Finders assessment, what is it that you're good at? What do people come to you for? What are you known for? Because those are strengths. And a lot of times they're strengths because we don't recognize them. That's why they're called strengths.
Right.
So that's where I first suggest people start if they can't figure that out. And then what is it that you can do in your current situation? Can you do more of this that aligns with who you are and less of that doesn't align with who you are? What are you motivated by? Are you motivated by affiliation, being with other people? Are you motivated by achievement, just getting things done? Are you motivated by having influence with others and over things? Well, if you're motivated by affiliation, but you're always working on solo projects, how happy are you?
That's true.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. You're saying a lot of things that resonate with me. When I had to deal with, I had women power brokers, and I also had personal life development seminars for women many years ago, and I ran them for like 14 years. So I'd have women, again, I did take the Strength Finders many years ago through Leadership America, but basically what I would do a simple exam with them, and I'd have to take them back because I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I really like. I'm working on a job, I'm really bored. So I'd ask a simple question. What was it that you played with when you were a child? What did you play with? Because what you played with as a child was actually to lead you to your purpose. Well, as a result of a woman discovering she played with dolls, and she would do fashions for her dolls. Guess what? She was an engineer, electrical engineer, and she decided today, guess what she's doing?
Designer?
Fashion designing as a result of that. Another woman said, well, we were so poor, I played with pots and pans. You know, because that's all she had to play with. I said, but how did you organize them? You know, so think about that skill. You like organization. You like organizing things, and you're doing events. So you might want to think about planning, organization. So it was really interesting to really go back to what did you play with as a child. So I want to ask you, what did you play with when you were a girl? What did you play with? What toys?
I had parents that encouraged me and my brother to explore anything we wanted to explore. But I remember my brother saying, you were bossy. So maybe the fact that I like to help people get where they're trying to go comes from the fact that, and my mother said I always had strong organizational and administrative skills.
But what toys did you play with? I want to know what toys, girl. I don't know about these skills.
Honestly, I can't remember. I was creative.
Yeah, but did you have dolls? I mean, did you line up your dolls and talk to them? And
so I did have some stuffed animals.
Okay.
I did have a Barbie head that I played with. I used to think that I wanted to be in fashion and design. So I did some sewing, I did some modeling. I've done all kinds of things, which was part of my problem in college. I couldn't figure out what to focus on.
Okay.
Because whatever my parents saw in us, they let us explore. I was, into music. I had an accordion, right?
Right.
Flute, handbells, whatever it was that my parents saw in me and my brother, we got to pursue.
Okay.
So I don't know how I got here, but I tell you what, now that I'm here, I absolutely love it.
Okay.
I love it.
I think the most important thing is to love what you do.
Absolutely.
To love what you do.
Absolutely.
So, Caitlin, what did you play with as a little girl?
What did I play with?
What toys?
I read a lot of mystery books.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're in finance. Did you play Monopoly a lot?
No, not at all. I actually played with Barbie. I played with Barbie
Did
a
you?
lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you migrated, your parents were from China.
Yes,
and
from
so,
China. I was born and raised here.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I was born and raised
did you
here.
ever go back to China as a little
Taiwan.
girl?
I've been to
Okay,
Taiwan.
Taiwan, okay.
Yes. And talking about strength finders, I find that very interesting. I took the Gallup strength finders. My top 5 are relator, learner, achiever, responsibility, and positivity.
And you remember them.
Wow.
And
Look at
I
that.
remember them.
Yes.
And they, the strength finder is very accurate. It's funny.
It is.
I took it twice and 5 years in between. Guess what my top one was both times? Relator.
Yeah. So, but
So
right
it's
now it's
weird.
2. You mentioned relator as your second one, right?
No, it's
No,
the
it's
first
your
one,
your
number
first
one.
one? Okay.
Yes,
Fantastic.
and I think I'm in the right business in a people business.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
And
love the
relator is
strength
my
finder.
number 2.
Oh, there
So
we
we
go.
can hang out.
See, we
Yeah.
can hang out. We'll get along.
We will.
Well, I took mine must have been 10, 15 years ago. And I don't remember.
Relator's got to be one of yours,
I
Dr. B.
don't
I know, it has
It's
remember.
got to be.
Maybe exhorter is an exhorter. I don't know, but probably relator. But if something was not common for most people that I had, I don't know, can't quite remember. But so relator it might be. But I can tell you this: I know that I love motivating, encouraging people, empowering them.
Yes.
I would say more than encouragement. It's about empowering women and men to be successful, to live their best life.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's about. And that's what this show is about, The Total Woman, because we talk about issues, some that we may get a little controversial as we go along, because we have 12 seasons of this show, Total Woman, and we will be bringing on other co-hosts that we're going to talk about issues that really, really dig deep. Because I think it's time. This is the Me Too woman movement, but I'm taking it to another level. I'm taking it to a deeper level about Me Too and how we can work through diversity, work with millennials, which I'm going to bring up the topic of how do you relate with millennials, and have you been doing some research because they are really searching. I think the word would be in search of where do I belong, where do I fit, what's my purpose, and they're in a mode where I actually came up with a chart when hiring or looking at millennials to find out in this chart of 4 blocks of looking at happiness, growth, career, and really what is important to them, their values. And so corporations are going to have to be like, what have you found?
Yes, what I have found in the research that I've done about millennials, and I've been researching millennials off and on for the past 15 years.
Okay.
Right now, what's happening in the workforce is folks that have been there for a while, they look at the millennials and say, well, they never stay. They're here for a year or 2 and they're gone. That's the myth. Here's the thing. Millennials are looking to align their purpose with the corporation's purpose. So when I consult with corporations, I remind them, people first, passion follows, purpose fulfilled. When you put people first and help them understand how they're motivated, what they're good at, they're going to find more passion for their work. And then the purpose of the individual aligning with the corporation is going to be fulfilled. But we first have to focus on the people. And millennials, from what I have heard, from what I have experienced, from what I have read, they're really looking for purpose even in their job. If their own personal values are not aligned with the corporation's personal values, they're not going to stay long.
No, they're not.
They want you to spend time with them and develop them. They're very much into development. And why shouldn't they be? Here's the thing, though. I think a lot of companies miss. It's not about ages as much as it's about stages. You can be 51 and going back to school. You can be 31 and going back to school. And in that situation, doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter that you're in the same stage. It matters that you're in the same stage.
Well, one of the things that I just, on my radio side of the house, had an interview with a person who talks about compassion in organizations. He's a strong proponent about compassion and compassionate organizations, and how millennials, what he gave me a stat was most millennials are in their jobs for 3 years. And they tend to move on if their needs are not and their values aren't being met.
Correct.
Now, what I don't know, which I'd be intrigued to do some research, because the Gen Zers are different. They have a different value system, what I understand. Now, I do have a millennial mastermind, which Caitlin is a part of that millennial mastermind as one of our board members. And we're really working to help them orchestrate, navigate a clear path for them for success. But more, I think we're more listening to them than and giving wisdom when they ask for it. But to provide that love and that support, which I think is so important. So the corporations, and from what I hear you saying too, are the ones that have a core belief or a core foundation of compassion, of working with the employees and seeing that their needs are met, are going to be successful in the future.
Absolutely.
That's what I hear you saying. Maybe
Yes, and I think that begins with psychological safety, which is big. Now we're talking about diversity and inclusion, we're talking about inclusive leadership. Again, I think that, and it could just be the fact that companies just aren't aware of the importance of psychological safety, but people today need to be aware of how they show up.
And have you explain psychological safety for somebody out there that may not know what you mean by psychological safety? Go ahead.
Psychological safety means that people feel comfortable showing up as who they are, how they present physically, the fact that there's diversity in their background, their approach, their thought process, the fact that a leader is not going to make me feel stupid for saying something. Do I feel safe? Do I feel safe to challenge my leader and say, there might be a different way of doing that. And if Dr. Barber is my leader, but I don't feel comfortable in doing that, then I'm not psychologically safe. And that's huge these days.
Now, but on the other flip side too, is that we're going to have to start looking at training for leaders.
Absolutely.
Because this autocratic sort of top-down initiated leadership style is going
Absolutely.
to have to be revisited. And I'm thinking also how this can be infused into curriculums in colleges and universities where they're teaching leadership, because it has to have a new way of teaching this and infusing it in curriculum, because most of the curriculums are not geared towards being sensitive to the needs of an employee,
Right.
talking back to me or challenging me, so to speak. What that also means to me is that the leader has to feel, again, that journey within, feel secure in who he
Absolutely.
or she
Yes.
is.
Absolutely.
That I can stand to be challenged.
Yes.
And that it doesn't mean that I am wrong or I'm not the right person, or
That's right.
that you get defensive.
That's
but
right.
you're able to hear another person's point of view about a matter.
Absolutely.
So it's going to really, this is going to really change the whole landscape. We can talk about this, on and on about leadership, because I'm fascinated. Of course, I'm a leadership guru, as you are, and I'm really fascinated about leadership, and so are you.
Oh, absolutely.
And how we're going to roll in the future. But it all starts and ends
Yes.
with us.
It does.
Within.
It
Yeah.
does. And awareness. We have to be reflective and aware about ourselves, but also about others. I don't envy leaders today. There are 5 different generations in the workforce. So you've got
That's
the generation that says, I want to bond with you and have a meeting. You've got the
Right.
generation that says, I just sent you a text. What do we need to meet for?
Exactly.
2 different ways of communicating. How can that be misperceived? And sometimes our best intentions, we have to think about that. What was the unintended consequence? There's so much to it these days.
Exactly.
And
And a
very-
lot of
yeah.
young people now, once they graduate from college, they own their own business. Back in the old days, you work for somebody first, you kind of learn other people's leadership styles.
Right.
And then when you own your own business, maybe it's a little easier. But now they get out of college and they own their own business. So I think it's really important for millennials and Gen Zers to start learning
And
about
actually,
leadership.
that's
in
going to be
school.
another show that
Absolutely.
we're going to
Yeah.
talk about. We're going to talk about women entrepreneurs and why so many people are becoming entrepreneurs today, and what are some of the challenges in becoming your entrepreneur, because it's not overnight success.
No, it is not. Please
so-
bring me back for that one.
So we're gonna, our next show, we're gonna talk about women entrepreneurs, why more women are becoming entrepreneurs, and what are some of the drawbacks, and what some of the challenges, and what are some of the successes as well. So I want you to stay tuned with me, because we're gonna be back next week. We're gonna have another show, and actually I'm gonna invite you back.
I'd
You
be
were great.
happy to come back.
I
Thank
I gotta get
you.
your brain and I gotta get you back too.
Yes.
All right. So
Thank you.
I really want to thank you guys, for all of you, for tuning in today to the Total Woman Show. I invite you, please, send your remarks, your comments to info@transformationforsuccess.com. We will respond. Be sure. We will respond. And so I want to thank you again. Thank you, I guess, Dr. Anita.
Thank you, Dr. B.
I'm going to say Dr. Caitlin.
Thank you, Dr. B.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys were great. Really fabulous. Yay! Yay! Next week, you guys, next week,